Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your number one resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. And yeah, it's on a Tuesday. Another sort of affordable full-body tracking solution has popped up on Kickstarter. The Quest 2 is back on store shelves, along with V32, an entirely new Quest update with new features. And well, the Federal Trade Commission has just amended their original Facebook antitrust case, looking to break Facebook up into separate companies. And it's getting really hot and could mean a lot for VR moving forward. We've got that and so much more. Let's just get right into the news. First, I do want to mention I'm about to be having huge community meetups in VR through my Discord server, so if you want to be a part of some really amazing VR events and come meet me as well, then join in my Discord server. It's always a good time. But let's get right into it. So off the heels of a massive recall for Quest 2s for facial interface irritation and the 64GB Quest 2 being discontinued, today marks the day that Quest 2s are back in stock, with the 128GB version replacing the 64GB at $299. So if you've been holding out on waiting for larger storage capacity, now's your time. Also today, the Quest and Quest 2 receive the next big software update, V32. Now this isn't a big pass-through or air-linked sized update, but it does come with a lot of quality of life improvements. And actually, this update brings one of the biggest improvements I've been wanting for Oculus for years. You can now gift Oculus Store games directly from the headset. Just find a game you want to buy for someone in the store and press buy for a friend. Friends lists also have been improved, so Oculus and Facebook friends appear in one place, and there's some new functionality to change daily and weekly fitness goals with Oculus Move. The biggest update here though is the ability to sync your media, that being screenshots and clips in-game from the Quest and Quest 2 with your phone, so you can more easily share that media. And this may seem small, but it's kind of huge, allowing for anyone to share cool things they see in VR more easily with more people. I imagine that a lot of people will be sharing VR captures on social media, with it being far easier and seamless to actually do so. Also, this is an update rollout, so if you don't have V32 yet, it should appear in the next few days. Okay, but now is the big one. So back in December of 2020, the Federal Trade Commission and 46 US states sued Facebook under the grounds of, quote, accusing the firm of buying up competitors, chiefly WhatsApp and Instagram, to liquidate competition in the social media industry, end quote, with the main goal of the antitrust suit to essentially break up Facebook into multiple companies, saying that Facebook is a social media monopoly. Well, in June of this year, a federal judge actually threw out the case, saying that the prosecutors did not provide enough legal evidence to back up the claims that Facebook was a monopoly, and that the agency's definition of a monopoly was too vague. And as shocked as some regulators were, that seemed to be the end of it. But not so fast. The option was given to the prosecutors to amend their complaint, and as of this week, the antitrust case is back in full force, the primary documentation being nearly twice as long as the original case. Now, you may immediately think, what does this have to do with VR? Well, it kinda turns out that there's a company out there that owns 100% of the Western world's standalone VR market share, more than 60% of all PC VR market share, and is responsible for a majority of VR software sales. And well, that's Facebook, of course. So if the company were to be broken up or hit with major changes in regulation for monopolistic tactics, it's only fair to assume that Oculus and Facebook Reality Labs would also be massively affected, especially when you consider what this amended case actually talks about, which, if you've been watching the VR industry closely, will sound extremely familiar. Here's from the FTC press release, quote, the complaint alleges that after repeated attempts to develop innovative mobile features for its network, Facebook instead resorted to an illegal buy or bury scheme to maintain its dominance. It's unlawfully acquired innovative competitors with popular mobile features that succeeded where Facebook's own offerings fell flat or fell apart. And to further moat its monopoly, Facebook lured app developers to the platform, surveyed them for signs of success, then buried them when they became competitive threats. Lacking serious competition, Facebook has been able to hone a surveillance-based advertising model and impose ever-increasing burdens on its users. And to put that simply, Facebook is being called out for its tactics of, instead of creating actual innovation themselves that furthers the technology market freely, they strong-arm successful tech businesses by either buying them out completely to own them or manipulate the the market to bury them and kill their business by either copying them directly or breaking the functionality of competing applications to stifle potential threats, leading to the FTC Bureau of Competitive Director saying this conduct is no less anti-competitive than if Facebook had bribed emerging app competitors to just not compete. Now, Oculus was not mentioned in this amendment, but I want to remind you of what has happened over the past few months and years. Facebook has been on an acquisition spree, buying 5 VR studios over the past couple of years from Beat Games to Big Box. And while Oculus App Labs is really amazing, it's hard to say that App Lab would have come at all if SideQuest wasn't a thing. Not to mention Oculus Move, which was already a thing that Developer 6 had created with YourFit before being broken as an application by Oculus Updates in lead up to Oculus Move being implemented. We are literally watching the buy or bury happen in real time with the VR industry, the $300 hardware included. So what could this mean for Oculus in the VR industry? Well, if this antitrust suit goes the same way as Microsoft in the 90s, which Microsoft actually lost and was ordered to break up into 2 parts, until it was appealed and Microsoft settled and agreed to share its interfaces with other companies, then really not much will happen. Facebook will likely be required to pay up and probably open up its APIs to developers further. If this case goes further than Microsoft's, then we could see an entirely new set of regulations that stop some of the anti-competitive behaviors and lead to a more open Oculus both for users and developers and for competitive hardware and software as well. And if you're worried about VR going anywhere because of this, don't think you have to side with Facebook for anything just because they're the biggest company in VR right now. VR is not going anywhere. The industry is at a point where more competition is better, and there are thousands and thousands of people across the globe building hardware and software for VR. It's not going anywhere regardless of the outcome here. And believe me, I am thankful that the Quest 2 exists for a lot of reasons. It brought millions of new people in VR and made developers millions of dollars, but it's okay to like what a company is doing for the industry while being critical of some of its practices. Not everything has to be so black and white, bad or good. What could happen though potentially would solve a lot of the issues I personally have with Facebook and with Oculus, like them locking out features at the API level out of applications that they deem competition for their own applications. It could slow this crazy acquisition spree where Facebook just buys any successful VR studio to own for themselves, further killing competition across VR storefronts. And potentially, it could even break down or dissolve the Facebook login requirement for Oculus, as even Germany finds that move to be a serious breach of antitrust laws. Regardless, if you're an Oculus superfan or an Oculus super hater, the spotlight being on the problems Facebook has is good. This is being done to hopefully allow more companies in social media and the tech industry as a whole, VR included. Of course, this could also just fall flat again and be thrown out, but I'm guessing that this case isn't going to die anytime soon, and even if it does, it will come back later. And I'll keep you updated as soon as I hear more information. A more competitive VR landscape means more hardware and more software developers, and an incentive to create the best hardware and software for the consumer, and the best wins out, rather than there being 1 or 2 companies focused on shutting down competition. But now it's time for a meme break. You know, I spent a lot of time in VR chat. Maybe a little too much, but I often forget all the weird things about VR chat that I've just learned over the years and became normal. And man, I just imagine being a new user in VRC, hopping into a public world for the first time and just seeing a bunch of people staring at a wall, not knowing that there's a mirror to turn on. But then again, that's probably one of the least weird things you'll come across. Just imagine a Quest user thinking that robot avatars are the most popular thing in VR chat. And now, back to the news. In case you don't already know, I love using full body tracking all of the time. While there are only a few applications that truly support full body, the ones that do have support show off how much of a game changer actually having legs in VR is. But full body tracking is just expensive, flat out, especially if you want to use base stations and laser tracking to do it. Well, a new Kickstarter has shown up by the name of Axis, and basically it's a full body tracking rig with no base stations required. Although it's not particularly cheap, pretty much costing $499 for the Kickstarter special for the 9-node setup. This honestly reminds me a lot of Slime VR, a pretty cheap IMU-based full-body tracking method that I just reviewed a few weeks ago, but that cost about half as much. This, however, seems to be put together specifically for ease of setup, as Axis is posed to be a full consumer and professional product out of the gate rather than an open source project like Slime. It's hard to tell in their promotional video just how good the tracking actually is, but from what is shown, including a Taekwondo competition, the tracking does seem pretty impressive. And one of the main proposed use cases of Axis trackers is to provide a more affordable film-level motion capture, which is pretty awesome. As of this video, the Kickstarter is at $37,000 of a $98,000 goal. I don't know, it looks really interesting, it's just a little expensive considering something like Slime again, and that's getting better all of the time at half the cost, and there are very few examples of how good Axis tracking actually is. Either way, I'd love to get this in hand and compare everything directly, and if you want to look at it for yourself, link is in the description. To further back the claims regarding AR and VR market being here to stay, Technavio has recently posted a market research article on VR's projected growth, marking a 25% growth in 2021, so far largely thanks to the Quest 2, but is expected to grow by $162 billion from now to 2025, with the top players in AR and VR being Alphabet, Facebook, Sony, Samsung, HTC, and Microsoft. There's room to grow for a lot of players and everyone benefits, including the adult VR entertainment segment, estimated to grow from 716 million current day to $19 billion by 2026. This report, quote, urges mainstream adult content platforms to form strategic partnerships with specialist VR content providers, end quote. Interesting. But now it's time for question of the week. From Martin, what is the state of Deca Gear? Is it a scam or somehow they release it? So I've talked with Megadodo pretty closely regarding Deca Gear and their future plans, and I really don't think it's a scam. If I'm only judging off of the hardware that I have, which is the Deca Move, I already know that the team has some very talented software engineers and is passionate about VR. I'm planning on doing a big video on Megadodo and the Deca Move in the next few months with interviews from the team, so keep on the lookout for that. But as with anything, stay weary, my friend. The only way you'll know something is totally legit is when it's in our hands and actually getting reviewed. And that's question of the week. Leave yours below in the comment section and I may just answer yours next. I will be streaming on Twitch after this video, so come on in and say what's up. Also, join in my Discord server to hop into our big meetup soon. Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. I couldn't do any of this without you. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.